Warnke's fibs and confabulations had not gone entirely unnoticed in the Christian world. In the late 80s, Cornerstone magazine quietly launched an investigation into his ministry and background. This was a publication of Jesus People USA, established and run by Christians. Warnke was being examined by his own people. Cornerstone writers John Trott and Mike Hertenstein learned from Warnke's own mother, half-sister Shirley Schrader, that he had not wandered away from church life as a teenager, as he stated in his book. In fact, he asked to be confirmed as a Catholic in his senior year of high school. When he was supposedly living with 2 slave girls in a satanic bachelor pad, strung out on speed, with bleached hair down to his butt and black painted fingernails, Warnke was actually engaged to a devoutly Catholic nursing student named Lois Ekinrud. They met within the first 2 months of college, got engaged in the winter of 1965, and spent every day together until Mike joined the Navy the following June. Lois says Mike was a Christian who always kept his hair short. He lived alone. He showed no signs of drug or alcohol abuse, as stated in his book. His college friend Greg Gilbert, with whom he lived for a while, described 18-year-old Warnke in much the same way. He was part of a loose-knit group of clean-cut, mostly Christian, students who bowled, played croquet, and drank very little. His high school and college buddies had never seen him take a drag, much less move hundreds of kilos into the Inland Empire at the behest of satanic kingpins. While Mike Judas Warnke was supposedly lopping off the fingers of devil worshippers, and sipping blood from a chalice, the real Mike Warnke was bowling, sharing hot fudge sundaes with his Catholic girlfriend, and listening to folk music at campus coffeehouses. While Warnke claims he avoided his family after enrolling at college, Shirley Schrader says Mike had Christmas dinner in Crestline with the family in '65. She noticed nothing out of the ordinary about his appearance or demeanor. In an interview about his book The Satan Seller, Warnke told Morris Cerullo and others that Charles Manson attended one of his coven's rituals in 1966 and was unimpressed, apparently disappointed that Warnke only pretended to disembowel the nude altar girl. Manson also attended the same San Francisco occult conference as LaVey, Warnke said. The problem with that story is that between June 1960 and March 1967, Manson was in jail for violating the Mann Act and his probation. Warnke could not have met him in the flesh, unless he traveled out to McNeil Island Penitentiary. Speaking to over 100 friends and colleagues, not one of them could verify strange behavior, track marks or wounds, or any other clues to Mike's past. Everyone said he was lying. The calendar of full moon rituals did not even match up, and neither did other dates. His claims of missing bodies thrown in dumpsters did not match any records. Mike had asked friends to sign an authenticity affidavit for his book, but they refused, saying it was all bull. Pictures from the peak of Warnke's Satan worship days showed a conservative nerd, not a strung-out long hair with 6-inch fingernails. Mike's involvement, as a high priest of Beelzebub, was limited to 1 or 2 Ouija sessions, as a kid, and possibly some rock and roll air guitar. Far worse than tall tales, former wife Carolyn spoke freely about Mike beating the living hell out of her. These were not the only stretchers Warnke was telling. In '82, he told Contemporary Christian Music magazine he had earned a Ph.D. in philosophy, a master's degree in theology, and a second master's degree in Christian education. Since his single term at San Bernardino Valley College back in '65, the only schooling he had was his year in Bible college. The degrees were completely fictional. The recollections of his friends and family members were not the only things that contradicted Warnke's story. Trott and Hertenstein used the handful of time cues in The Satan Seller to figure out just how long it took Warnke to become a drug-addicted satanic high priest. In their side article Why the Dates Don't Work, they explain how his chronology is flat-out impossible. They also sorted out Warnke's confusing claims about his education, learning that he didn't possess a single degree aside from the one issued by Trinity Bible College, a non-accredited school. They heard allegations of death threats and abuse from Warnke's second wife, Carolyn. They learned that he had carried on an affair during this marriage even before meeting his third wife, Rose, They spoke to former ministry employees who quit, or were fired after they realized that all the money being raised was not being spent in the ways it was supposed to be spent. The Rehab Center for Child Victims of Satanic Ritual Abuse, for instance, never existed as anything more than a fantasy. In 1992, Cornerstone, a Christian publication, said the Satan Cellar was the source most responsible for the Satan scare that was in vogue those past few decades. Journalists John Trott and Mike Hertenstein ran some background checks and Warnke's story tumbled like a house of cards. Cornerstone published the results of Trott and Hertenstein's research as a cover article in June 1992. Selling Satan, The Tragic History of Mike Warnke. In September, the Warnkes shut down their ministry. Warnke ultimately admitted that his coven of 1,500 Satanists actually consisted of 13 people. He declined to give their names, claiming that 8 of them were deceased, and never provided any evidence in support of his testimony. Today, Warnke is a Right Reverend, and the website of Christian Communion International identifies him as a doctor. The long hair is gone, the evangelisticity is a little less springy, but he's still the same former Satanist, who scared the hell out of millions of Christians for nearly 2 decades. His 4-star testimony convinced them that all witches, pagans, and Satanists are a threat to every American family, and that the occult menace of Halloween celebrations and rock music must be destroyed.